first in high definition from the station on your side. This is WAVY News 10.
After 40 years in power, Muammar Gaddafi is dead. Tonight, how NATO forces and Libyan rebels brought him down. Then, could a maintenance record have saved a trash collector's life? Find out why the possible evidence was thrown away. And
a Lake Taylor high school student is accused of beating up a bus driver. Hear what parents have to say coming up next.
We begin with breaking news out of Virginia Beach, where police are searching for a missing baby.
Investigators believe she may be with her mother's boyfriend. Now, here's a picture of that man, Lawrence Ray Smith, and 10-month-old Janiyah Whiteman. They were last seen on October 3rd.
The baby's mother left the little girl with Smith back in September, and now her family members are worried about her. Smith is not facing any charges involving the missing baby right now, but is wanted on an unrelated felony charge. Police and Norfolk Public Schools are investigating a bus driver beating.
Both say a Lake Taylor high school student is responsible, but they have not yet identified that student. 10 on Your Side's Melanie Woodrow met with the parent today whose daughter usually rides that bus. Melanie, what did he tell you?
Well, Nicole, his daughter was not on the bus when it happened yesterday. He wants to know what led up to the incident, and so does 10 on Your Side. But school administrators are not talking. Everyone on board this Norfolk school bus went home yesterday, except the bus driver, taken away in this ambulance. Norfolk police say a male student punched the bus driver yesterday afternoon. The bus was at the intersection of Leek and Pike Streets. Now Norfolk Public Schools is working with police to determine which student is responsible.
When I first heard about it, I was kind of shocked at first because that normally doesn't happen.
Donald Poindexter's daughter rides bus 146 in the morning, but doesn't usually take it home. He wonders what provoked the student.
I don't condone violence, period, but it had to be something real serious.
A Norfolk police spokesperson told 10 on Your Side somebody retrieved surveillance video from the bus, but Norfolk Public Schools wouldn't confirm that surveillance video existed or was being reviewed. A school spokesperson would only say that the incident was under investigation and no further information was available.
I would hope that like maybe one of the students or whatever, or somebody will come forth and say something of what was said.
10 on Your Side asked to speak with 3 different people from Norfolk Public Schools on camera, but we were told that they were either unavailable or not authorized to talk to us. Melanie Woodrow, 10 on Your Side.
We told you about another incident involving Norfolk Public Schools yesterday. Nearly 40 students at Lafayette Winona Middle School were pepper sprayed after a food fight broke out. School officials say a security guard sprayed the toxic substance to break up the fight. According to the school security officer policy, pepper spray is only to be used when a lesser form of force doesn't work. Also, the security officer must give a warning. 10 on Your Side asked school officials if a warning was given. They told us they're still investigating the incident. Meantime, that security officer was not at the school today, but is working still and getting paid. We'll continue to follow this case until the investigation is complete.
And 10 on Your Side has learned maintenance records for a Norfolk City truck involved in an employee death were destroyed. 51-year-old Jerry Holton died in February after a safety mechanism in the back of the truck failed. The city learned last week that someone had disabled it. 10 on Your Side's Ann McNamara explains why the paperwork that might hold the answer is now gone. Ann.
Tom, the company who sold the truck to Norfolk threw away the truck's maintenance history. Here's what happened. The city bought the truck from the Southeastern Public Service Authority months before this accident, but they never got the truck's records. That history could have included that the safety system had been turned off. 51-year-old Jerry Holton died on the job in February. Holton climbed into a city recycling truck to fix a jam and got crushed by the system.
When you open that door, the truck is supposed to cut off the hydraulics altogether. That did not cut off.
And you were unaware of that problem?
Absolutely. We were just unaware of it, totally.
The city of Norfolk says Holton did not follow city policy to take the key out of the ignition. The backup was a safety mechanism in the truck. The city learned last week someone had disabled it.
That interlock, yes. We all know that that thing should have been working.
The maintenance records can't be checked. That's because they were thrown away by the company who sold the truck to the city. The Southeastern Public Service Authority says the paperwork was destroyed 5 months after the sale because the city never asked for it. Norfolk safety officer Craig Watkins says the city put in requests both before and after the accident, but only received these accounting spreadsheets.
There's no detailed accounting as far as what took place, what was the condition of the truck before, what parts were used, who to perform the maintenance on that part of the truck. We have none of that.
So why put a used truck on the road without knowing its full history?
What we should have done is just go ahead and really did our due diligence and make sure we looked at the truck completely before we purchased.
And is that what you did?
I don't believe that. To the best of my ability, I don't believe we did.
And without those records, it's hard to tell who is responsible for disabling a system that could have saved a life. Now, the City of Norfolk spokesman does say that this truck has been taken off the roads along with one of a similar model. They also say from now on, the city will only buy new trucks for the safety of its employees. Ann McNamara, 10 on your side.
All right, Ann, thanks.
At least 2 men broke into 4 different businesses in Newport News. They all happened yesterday on Jefferson Avenue in the early morning hours. Police say the suspects broke glass doors to get inside, and they took money, computers, and cash registers. Along with this Family Dollar store, the burglars hit King's Pizza, Chinatown Restaurant, and Chickasee Restaurant. Police say the men were driving a silver 2006 Ford Taurus with stolen Virginia plates. Have you seen 20-year-old Demond Pierre Davis? Police say he broke into a Newport News home, but they haven't been able to find him. If you have any idea where he may be, call the crime line.
Tonight, Muammar Gaddafi is dead. He was the leader of the longest-living Arab dictator, a man who allegedly ordered the bombing of a U.S. airliner over Lockerbie, Scotland. He fought rebels until the end, and those rebels have released graphic video to back up a claim that they killed him. We're going to show that footage. It may be disturbing to some of you. Steve Handelsman is following more developments tonight from Washington.
He did not die right away. Home video shows Muammar Gaddafi bloodied by Libyan rebels who'd risen up against him last spring. Then Gaddafi's seen dead. He'd controlled his country since 1969, murdering thousands, allegedly killing Americans in the 1988 Lockerbie Pan Am bombing. Now Gaddafi is finished. A victory for President Obama. He'd ordered U.S. intervention, but today saluted the Libyan people.
You have won your revolution, and now we will be a partner as you forge a future that provides dignity, freedom, and opportunity.
Libyans celebrated. They rose up to overthrow Gaddafi, but needed help and got it from the U.S. American warplanes pounded Gaddafi forces in March and April. When the U.S. rule dwindled to the use of drones, Italy, France, and others kept up the air attacks. But Gaddafi, facing war crimes charges, refused to give up. Word today that the dictator was dead flashed worldwide. In Afghanistan, a smartphone was handed to Hillary Clinton, and the Secretary of State got the news.
Wow.
The mother of a Lockerbie victim was relieved.
It provides me comfort in such that he can no longer harm other individuals as he harmed Nicole.
President Obama had tried something new, a limited U.S. military role.
I like it. It was a win-win for the president and the White House in the long run.
But Mr. Obama's not getting credit from some Republicans.
No, let's give credit where it's due. Number one, the French and the British carried the load on this.
Now the load is on the Libyans.
To secure dangerous materials and to respect the human rights of all Libyans.
A dictator dead, but a nation still in chaos. And Arab experts say whether this makes America safer at this point is unknowable. I'm Steve Handelsman, NBC News, Washington.
Coming up on WAVY News 10 at 5:30.
I'm Katie Collette in Norfolk, where there's a possible link between this neighborhood and a horrific crime in Philadelphia. We'll talk about what that is coming up.
How do you do that to a 10-month-old and a 4-year-old? You just don't.
Find out what this woman is accused of giving her own children that landed her behind bars.
Then, today, the former JetBlue flight attendant who soared into instant celebrity learned his fate. Find out what fine he'll face for an emergency exit and what he's doing now to make up for it.
And a look at the nation's weather. Very quiet over the west and a little bit stormy across the eastern Great Lakes region. This is going to hang around for a little while in the next couple of days. What's ahead for us on into the weekend? We've already seen big changes. We'll tell you all about any other changes in our forecast.
You're watching WAVY News 10 at 5 with Tom Schaad, Nicole Ribas, and Super Doppler 10 Chief Meteorologist Don Slater.
Today, a Connecticut woman admitted to feeding beer and cocaine to her own children. Police say she forced her son to chug a bottle of beer and gave her 10-month-old daughter beer and cocaine. The 4-year-old boy told social workers his favorite drink was Budweiser. Her neighbors could not believe the news.
You just don't do stuff like that. I mean, you know, we live in a crazy world already. You need to, you know, raise your kids to live a good life. Not show them influences like that.
Both children tested positive for alcohol. The 10-month-old had drugs in her system as well. Their mother faces up to 2 years in prison.
And then our former JetBlue flight attendant who suddenly deployed an emergency evacuation slide will pay $10,000 to his old company. That's the price of repairing or replacing that emergency evacuation chute. Stephen Slater also has to serve a year probation after finishing a mental health treatment program. Slater could have gotten 4 years in prison. Now he's writing a memoir about his years in the airline industry and the day that led to his rise in fame. If you Google Lindsey Lohan and jail, it will come up nearly 40 million times. Tonight there's more. The actress may return to jail after a judge revoked her probation for missing community service. Today, she missed her next court-ordered appointment to volunteer at the county morgue. Lohan is required to complete 16 hours at the morgue before her hearing in 2 weeks and has another chance Friday to show up on time. If not, she could wind up again behind bars.
New developments in the search for wild animals that escaped from an exotic farm tonight. Find out where officials think the last missing animal might be and where the others that survived are going now.
Then changes could be coming to the grocery store near you. Find out why it could be easier to eat healthy in the near future. Life is getting back to normal in eastern Ohio after 49 wild animals escaped from an exotic farm.
After several days of living on the edge, all of the animals have been found, most of them killed. 10 on your side, Stephanie Harris has the latest.
Nicole, Tom, records show the owner of the animal farm was in deep debt. He and his wife owed more than $56,000 in unpaid income taxes and $12,000 in property taxes. On Tuesday, he unleashed the animals and ended his life.
I described it as a war zone.
With the threat of roaming, dangerous animals gone, and his neighborhood out of lockdown, Sam Kopchak can talk about his close encounters.
It appeared to be a bear. And I turned, and probably around 30 feet on the other side of a wire was a big, large male African lion. A deputy came right up here and was asking my mother what we saw, and the wolf went down the road, so that he just dropped his notebook and went off, and they killed like 3 down here.
And the shooting continued throughout Tuesday night and Wednesday morning until all of the 49 released animals had been killed. Mountain lions, African lions, monkeys, bears, and 18 Bengal tigers. The sheriff and wildlife experts agree there was no choice but to kill the animals. They say farm owner Terry Thompson doomed them all by setting them free just before he shot himself in a suicide.
Mr. Thompson did have a bite wound to his head area that the doctor said would be consistent with the bite from a larger type cat.
The locals here, including Thompson's neighbors, are somewhat sympathetic.
It's a very sad tragedy. I mean, I hate the situation. They were animal lovers.
And if you take a look at the animals, there wasn't anything that was starving in that situation.
Outsiders are not nearly as forgiving.
You could buy a tiger, but you can't buy common sense.
In the end, everyone's just relieved that a nightmare scenario wasn't any worse.
We could have had a major catastrophe, people killed. I mean, it had been a terrible situation.
And for the 6 remaining animals rounded up at the farm, a second chance at the Columbus Zoo. Now, in the meantime, state lawmakers are talking about toughening the laws. For example, not allowing anyone that has been charged with animal cruelty the way that Thompson was to own an exotic animal.
That might help. I mean, that's kind of crazy when you think about what happened.
And you have authorities there that aren't trained to deal with wild animals.
It really could have been a lot worse.
Little choice, exactly.
Definitely.
All right.
Thanks, Stephanie. Well, one of 2 bear cubs rescued in Suffolk this week has died. Wildlife rehabilitators found the cub in his enclosure today. He was the smaller, quieter of the 2 cubs, admitted after their mother was killed on Monday. She was hit by a car on Highway 58. Rescue crews tranquilized the cubs after they ran up a tree. They were taken to the Wildlife Center of Virginia in Waynesboro to recover. Veterinarians there are not sure why the cub died. Meantime, they are closely monitoring the other cub. He's scheduled for a weigh-in on Monday.
Now, in high definition, your Super Dapper 10 forecast with Chief Meteorologist Don Slater.
Skies clear, but it's chilly out there with that wind. Winds have been gusting to around 25, 30 miles an hour for most of the day today. Here's a look at what's going on. Super Dapper 10 Live got some clouds, but as far as rainfall, nope, we're not seeing any rainfall. Story is the temperature, and it's 64 right now, for example, in Norfolk, and it's about as warm as it's gotten all day. 65 was our high thus far, and you can see some 50s, lots of 40s to the west, and here's the reason why. Upper level low right on into here is not going to be moving all that much for a time now. It's not cold enough to snow into here, but they've got temperatures again into the low 40s. Here's what's going on in the wide view over the next couple of days. We'll see some off and on cloud cover, especially during the day coming up on Saturday, but nothing as far as rainfall into the region. All that rain kind of lifts on off to the north on up into Canada. But the big thing is we're going to see autumn temperatures. We'll show you what's going on in terms of the cloud cover. We've got a few partly cloudy skies right now, a few clouds into the area. And winds by 9 o'clock should drop off a bit, 10 to 15 miles an hour at 9 o'clock, and they'll drop off to 10 miles an hour tomorrow morning, 10 to 15 in the afternoon. And then once again in the afternoon, we'll see some cloud cover into the area. And during the day on Saturday, we'll see partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies into the area and a light northerly wind. Really all that's going on in terms of there's no precipitation going on and not a great deal of wind coming up over the next couple of days. There is now, but again, that wind should drop off a little bit later on tonight. So how are those temperatures going to be? During the day tomorrow around 65 again, but a lot less wind and some sunshine again for the day tomorrow. We move on into Saturday morning. Temperatures dropping into the 40s and low 50s once again, and highs only around 62, 63 degrees during the day on Saturday. It's windy out there, partly cloudy skies into the area right now. It's into the low to mid 60s. High today 65 degrees. It's 64 right now, for example, in Norfolk. It's between 62 and 64 across most of the area for now, and you can almost talk wind chill, as windy as it is into the area. Winds are still gusting into the 21, 23, 20, 16 mile an hour, and then 28 miles an hour into some areas. This is not quite as windy as it was last hour. Last hour we saw wind gusts that were around 30 miles an hour for much of the area. That wind should drop off, but so should the temperature overnight. It'll be around 45 to 48 degrees into the area, perhaps even low 40s into a few inland rural areas. During the day for tomorrow, sunshine with a few clouds during the afternoon hours like today. 65 degrees for a high temperature for Saturday, 63 degrees. And you saw it on Future Track, a bit more cloud cover. 65 though on Sunday, back up there a little bit. Look at the nighttime lows, well on down into the 40s. And then we recover into next week with temperatures into the upper 60s and the low to mid 70s. So far it looks like rain should stay away. There is a shot at some rain on our 8th day, a week from tomorrow. There's a chance of some rain coming up next Friday. But for now, winds drop off, cold overnight, temperatures cool at least into the weekend.
A 71-year-old grandma, a black eye and bruises all over her. Tonight at 5:30, the message she has for the man who broke into her house and tried to rob her.
Money is tight for most people these days, so how much are you planning to spend during the holidays? Find out how much most people spend on friends, family, and coworkers.
What's the difference between low fat and reduced fat on, say, a loaf of bread? Well, it could be confusing. It's a common confusion that may be cleared up soon. The government asked a panel of independent experts to come up with a streamlined food labeling system. They developed standardized icons that would go on the front label of food packages. This is intended to help consumers make quick and hopefully healthier decisions.
What we're really looking at is the equivalent of an Energy Star system for foods and beverages. We're really looking at those nutrient components that are most associated with chronic diseases.
The Institute of Medicine's proposed icon system must be researched and approved by the FDA. No word on when it might hit the store shelves.
A number of adults say they will get a second job to help pay for holiday gifts. A recent survey showed 45% said they'll have a hard time affording gifts this year. To help relieve some of the financial burden, 20% said they'll get a second job and 10% already have one. As consumers watch their holiday budgets, they'll look for the best bang for their buck. The National Retail Federation says shoppers plan to spend over $700 during the holiday season. The average person will spend around $400 on family members, roughly $63 on friends, and $21 on co-workers. The rest will go towards decorations.
Tracking your trick-or-treaters. We're going to show you how to keep an eye on your ghosts and goblins without cramping their style.
And food prices may have you pinching pennies, but do you really know where to find the cheapest groceries? We're on your side crunching the numbers on WAVY News 10 at 5:30.
Let's see here. Let me get it on first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm not listening today.
Mic check, mic check. 1, 2.
How many times have you heard, there's an app for that? Well, now there's an app for this, keeping track of your trick-or-treaters on Halloween on your smartphone. It's called the Lookout app, which is traditionally used to locate lost or stolen devices. It can also be downloaded on a child's cell phone. That way, parents can see their child's location by logging online and clicking Missing Device. The app is free and available on most smartphones. Going out of town for Halloween, San Francisco tops the list of best cities to trick-or-treat in. The index ranks cities based on which provides the most candy, least walking, and safety risks. Thought you wanted to walk longer. Boston ranks second, Honolulu third, Seattle and Chicago, they round out the top 5. Stay with us. WAVY News 10 at 5:30 starts right now.